this thing going and having to come to you, well, not having to, choosing to come to you, rather than, the path that NPR and others took of going to big corporations and right-wing think tanks and all that kind of stuff for money. Instead, we want you to be the decision makers, the arbiters, the people who are supporting the programs and the network. And I think it's a brilliant decision. So please call now, 877-378-8669. We have some goodies to give away with a $60 gift. You get a Free Speech TV water bottle. The $60 is also $5 a month for a year. With a $120 gift, which would be $10 a month for a year, you get the book, The Revolution Where You Live, Stories from a 12,000-Mile Journey Through a New America by Sarah Van Gelder, the editor of Yes Magazine. With a $150 gift, you get both the Revolution Where You Live book and the Spirit of Standing Rock DVD. With a $240 gift, you get the Spirit of Standing Rock DVD, the Free Speech TV water bottle, the Free Speech TV grocery bag, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker. With a $360 gift, you get the Revolution Where You Live book, the Free Speech TV grocery bag, the Free Speech TV hat, the Free Speech TV hand fan, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Washington, D.C., and I'll take you out to lunch for a little pizza party with a few other people who watch Free Speech TV and or who have donated to Free Speech TV. And we'll have a really nice time. I really enjoy these afternoons that we host people who are donors to Free Speech TV. It's really, really fun. So please, this network is important. This is important work that we're doing, that you're doing right now. Even just watching and sharing the information with others, that is the key to a functioning democracy, is an informed and educated populace. And all of us have a responsibility to help our friends and neighbors become those informed people. So the telephone number again is 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669. And you can call now and let them know what you like. Let them know what programs you like on Free Speech TV and what you don't like, for that matter. This is a great opportunity to provide some feedback. 877-378-8669. Thank you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. James Silverstone just tweeted the perfect analogy. He said, Gorsuch reminds me of Paul Ryan, the friendly face who looks you in the eye as he throws people under the bus. It's brilliant. It is a unique form of right-wing sociopathy. The New York Times had a graphic today that shows that Gorsuch is actually more extremist than Antonin Scalia was. He's farther to the right than Scalia. Which, should tell you something. Oh, this is interesting. Liberals and Lawsuits by Neil Gorsuch. Yeah, I'll have to get to that later. But anyhow, there's the Gorsuch hearings are going on. I am strongly of the opinion that Democrats in the United States Senate should say to Mitch McConnell, who runs the Senate, he's the Senate Majority Leader, we will vote on Merrick Garland. When Merrick Garland is presented to us for a vote, we will vote on whether there should be a 9th member of the Supreme Court and who it should be. Merrick Garland was appointed by the President of the United States to be the nominee. Bring us Merrick Garland and we'll talk. But this guy was, he was not appointed by the President of the United States after Scalia died. This guy was waiting in the wings with his billionaire buddy, Phil Anschutz, and all the right-wing foundations and all the right-wing billionaires who have been supporting him and his type throughout his life. And now he's sitting here on TV trying to do well, I'm just a friendly guy. And, you know, lawyers commit suicide a lot, and it's a really tough profession that we're in. Oh, I have so much empathy for you. Those poor lawyers. I'm serious. Come on. Psychiatrists and dentists commit suicide out of proportion, too. But, you know, by and large, they're not struggling every day just to put food on the table. Almost did a Bushism, food on their families. And it's such a memorable line, yeah. It is absolutely way past time for Democrats in the House and Senate to say, okay, you know, we're going to start behaving like grown-ups here. We're going to, you know, we're not going to take this kind of crap. We're not going to, you know, it's what Republicans have done is historic and reprehensible. And, you know, yes, Lindsey Graham, you can quote Joe Biden all day long. But, you know, Joe Biden was not on the Supreme Court. Joe Biden, I mean, you know, so what? So back in '92, when George Herbert Walker Bush was president and a story floated that a member of the court might step off the court, and Biden said, well, maybe we should wait until after the election. So what? Biden's not God. I mean, Joe Biden's made, he's made a lot of mistakes in his life. He's done a lot of really good things, too. Joe Biden's, you know, on net, I'd say Joe Biden is a really good guy. But he's not even in politics anymore. He is retired. And I would simply say to these guys, bring me Merrick Garland, and I'll have a conversation with you. Meanwhile, a couple of science stories I wanted to share with you that I thought were just fascinating, and then I'll pick up your phone calls here. The first is from The Guardian, from today's Guardian. And it's by Arthur Nelson. The headline is, Access to Nature Reduces Depression and Obesity, finds European study. Trees and green spaces are unrecognized healers, offering benefits from increases in mental well-being to allergy reduction, says report. You know, when we lived in Germany, we lived in Stadtsteinach, this little town out in, you know, kind of the middle of nowhere. And every weekend, actually every weekday, you could, you know, the town was surrounded by forest. It was in the Frankenwald, the Franconian forest. And every day you could walk out into the forest, which was just, you know, like 100 feet from where we lived, and there's all these very well manicured trails, and they're marked, and, you know, you could travel halfway across Germany on just forest trails. It's incredible. And this is what people did for fun and recreation, is they'd go walking in the woods. Our kids did too when we lived there with their friends. And this is what they, and by the way, we've done studies in the United States for years and years that show that people in hospitals, if when they look out their hospital room window, if they have a window, and if they can see the sky blue, or they can see trees or grass green, if they can see those living things and that you know, the living atmosphere, as it were, then they heal faster. And they have fewer complications. This is not even in dispute anymore. It's why they're redesigning hospitals. Pregnant women also received a health boost from a greener environment, recording lower blood pressure and giving birth to larger babies, research in Bradford found. Middle-aged Scottish men with homes in deprived, verdant areas were found to have a death rate 16% lower than their urban counterparts. In other words, it even makes up for poverty. Now, the double whammy, of course, is if you're suffering in horrible poverty and you're stuck in a city where you can't see anything green and you can't see the skies. Or, I mean, think about our kids growing up. When I grew up back in the 1950s, I used to go out and play all the time. I mean, during the summer, my friends and I, we would literally leave home in the morning, you know, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Mom would say goodbye, have a good day, I'll pack you lunch. And we would go miles out into the woods, there was a little stream that we used to go to and hunt for frogs and crawfish and all kinds of weird stuff. And you know, there was another part of the forest that had all these giant vines and things that we thought was like something out of, you know, Lord of the Rings. I'm talking 7, 8, 9 years old. Nowadays, everybody's, oh my God, you can't let the kid out all alone. Oh my, you can't even let him walk to school. You got to drive him everywhere. And so what happens is they have no contact with nature. What does that do to their minds? All they're doing is looking at a screen all day long. We need to have a national conversation about this, frankly. This is big stuff. Finally, they've known for a long time that broccoli fights cancer, particularly raw broccoli. If you cook broccoli, it inactivates an enzyme in broccoli that is necessary to create the chemical. It's called sulforaphane, 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 I think. Sounds right. That this compound is largely destroyed by cooking broccoli. Or actually, the compound is created in your mouth when you chew up broccoli. There's an enzyme and there's a precursor compound, and the enzyme causes the precursor compound in your mouth and in your digestive system to turn into this sulforaphane, which kills cancer cells. But the problem is the enzyme gets killed when you cook broccoli. But one of the things, and I learned this from Dr. Greger's website, nutritionfacts.org, and it's amazing. You can go over to nutritionfacts.org and stick into his search engine broccoli, and it'll just blow your mind. He discovered, or scientists discovered, he reported, that mustard, uncooked mustard, which most mustard is uncooked, or mustard powder. You buy dried mustard, ground mustard seeds, right? Just dried mustard powder. That if you put that, it contains that same enzyme that's in the broccoli. And so if after you cook your broccoli, you sprinkle a little bit of mustard powder on it, it becomes an anti-cancer cocktail. But now this is from Oregon State University, it was published in Nutritional Biochemistry. They took it a whole nother step. They said, how does this sulforaphane work? Turns out that the way it works is by modifying the way our DNA expresses itself. And that's pretty amazing. It's actually not even DNA, it's RNA. It's ribonucleic acid, not deoxyribonucleic acid. And the research provides more evidence. This is from a story in Science Daily out of Oregon State University. It's from their press release. The research provides more evidence for how these INC RNAs, which are once thought to be a type of junk DNA of no particular value or function, may instead play a critical role in triggering cells to become malignant and spread. And of course, what this compound does is it suppresses that at the cellular level. With high levels in broccoli, the one particular gene is the LINC01116 gene that apparently provokes prostate cancer. We'll be back with your calls.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Stick around, back with your calls and my thoughts and the news of the day and all that kind of good stuff right after this. And welcome back. Jill, watching Free Speech TV in Midway, Pennsylvania. Hey, Jill, what's on your mind today?
Hi. It's amazing because when I first made this call, I was going to talk about the differences between Republicans and Democrats, but everything you've talked about has been something I wanted to say something about. But we'll go back to the original. You were talking about the difference between Republicans and Democrats, and Will Rogers, and you're not quite old enough to remember, and neither am I really, but I saw this when I was in the 50s on television. I cut from one of his old comedy stand-ups where he was saying everybody complains about the government and how they spend too much money, and what's the difference between Democrats and the Republicans are, The difference is that the Democrats spend it on everybody else and the Republicans spend it on themselves.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
And I've always loved that. I've never forgotten it. And then you were just talking about cancer and broccoli.
Yeah.
11 years ago, I had cancer. I'm a great believer in natural healing and foods. And from the time I found out I had cancer to the time that my husband just came home and my dog's going nuts. And from the time they took it out, the cancer was killed because I ate the different foods that I knew would kill cancer, broccoli being one of them. Yeah. Raw.
Yeah, raw broccoli and broccoli sprouts now are supposed to be super high in this compound.
Yeah. And the other thing, just real quick, the gentleman who called in about Gorsuch and said he had an open mind, there's a difference between an open mind and an uninformed mind.
Yeah, well, that was the point I was trying to make, although, you know, it got rather contentious. But, yeah. Okay, great. Jill, thank you. Thank you for a great comment, a great contribution to the show. Thank you. Peter in Harmony, Rhode Island. Hey, Peter, what's on your mind today? Peter, watching us on YouTube?
Yes.
Hey, you're on the air.
Hey, Tom. Yeah, I'm actually calling from Bristol. It's the second time Harmony pops up for some reason, but it's okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to talk about ranked choice voting in Rhode Island. You probably know that last year Maine passed its ranked choice voting measure by 52 to 48. We expected it to be a much higher win, but there was a blitz in the last few days by one of the, I don't know who it was.
Republicans don't like this.
Yes.
Democrats are not fond of it, but Republicans hate it.
Absolutely. So yesterday, through my law school class, legislative drafting, we had a ranked choice. We introduced our bills in the Rhode Island legislature, and it was like a mock committee hearing. Mm-hmm. But it had real representatives on it. We had some Republicans, some senators, and there was my state representative who actually supports RCV pretty arduously. So we made I made my arguments in favor of ranked choice voting, the whole spoiler effect. It took about 40 minutes for the hearing to conclude, and my bill passed the committee. It's the only bill that passed out of 5.
Wow.
And I was very excited for it. So now I'm going to ask my representative to introduce the same bill next year in 2018 because the deadline for 2017 has passed.
Oh, that is great. Yeah, ranked choice voting is something that opens up the electoral process to American citizens. It allows, more than just two parties to participate, and it allows the two parties to participate in a way that is considerably more free, more elbow room, as it were. It's a great thing.
Yes, and I just wanted to maybe encourage other people in their states to write to their state representative or state senator and ask them if they would want to support ranked choice.
Peter, do you know when ranked choice voting goes into effect in Maine?
I believe January of 2018, but they're mounting another constitutional challenge to it.
Of course they are. Yeah. Okay, Peter, I'm sorry we're out of time. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate the call. We'll be right back. The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by the Aiden Forecast, an investment newsletter with weekly updates of leading market indicators and a monthly deep dive into what the details of the economy and the markets mean for investors and retirees. On the web at aidenmarkets.com. Wines have some of the highest pesticide levels in our food chain. This hour brought to you by ecowine.com. Pesticide-free wines, organic wines, imported from France by the Organic Wine Company, ecowine.com. The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Super Beets. Super Beets are sourced from non-GMO beets, and they're packed with dietary nitrates, helping to produce nitric oxide for more energy, stamina, and support for healthy blood pressure levels naturally. For more information, call 800-223-8242 or visit freespeechbeets.com. I'm here with you and Danette in Hinesville, Georgia. Hey, Danette, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. So I waffle back and forth between being really inspired by the Democrats and really frustrated with them, as I'm sure you do.
Me too.
If it were me personally, I just wouldn't show up. Like, what is the point? They're going to confirm him. You're going to have that one Democrat that is going to side with the Republicans because they need that one Democrat, right?
Well, I think they've already got him. Michael Bennett of Colorado, who is the Democratic senator from that state, was the one who introduced Gorsuch to the Senate. Now, he did that because Gorsuch is from Colorado.
Did he vote?
Well, I don't know. He did that because Gorsuch is from Colorado, and there's a tradition of, home state senators introducing the nominee. But I thought it was unseemly, frankly.
To me, it's utterly ridiculous, and this right here is why Democrats get their behinds handed to them and have. I mean, the fact that Obama's out of office and they can't even pay respect to Obama by standing for his nominee, and they're even sitting there asking Gorsuch questions.
Right.
That pisses me off, and I'm very vindictive when it comes to stuff like this. You show disrespect to my president. I don't have time to show respect to your president. I think that they all need to be like Bernie, out there talking about health care and wages and jobs and everything else. Bernie's not even in Washington today,
right.
At least as far as I know, because I saw a Periscope thing where he was at some kind of rally or something. But
he's traveling through the red states.
I'm sorry?
He's traveling through the red states. He's doing rallies in red states all over the country.
Right, but now with that, I think he needs to do rallies in urban areas as well, because urban people don't vote either.
Yeah.
You know, you have people in Houston, and you know, people do vote, but not at the levels that they should be voting.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. But back to Gorsuch.
They know that they don't care about him.
Yeah, back to Gorsuch. I think the Democrats are afraid that if they don't show up, actually, I think that the problem is that there's not unanimity in their caucus. Mitch McConnell, you know, Democrats want to have a conversation. Republicans just want to salute. And, you know, so when Mitch McConnell said, okay, guys, here's the deal. We're going to block everything Obama wants to do for the next 8 years, all the Republicans said, yes, sir, yes, sir. And they did. They blocked everything he tried for 8 years, including putting somebody on the Supreme Court in his last year. When Democrats, you know, if Harry Reid or now Chuck Schumer were to say, you know, we're all going to refuse to show up for the hearing, there would be a couple of people who go, well, let's have a conversation about this. I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't do that. You know, do we really want to see that obstruction? And, you know, I get it. And but it's actually one of the things that I find endearing about Democrats. I think, you know, Will Rogers said, I'm not a member of an organized political party. I'm a Democrat. And
I don't. I'm a Democrat too, but I don't. I'm sorry, I don't. When it's come down to, we have a traitor in the White House, we have a female private part grabber in the White House, when we have someone who will lie and say that President Obama committed a felony, and then when his own people say, no, that did not happen, he doesn't even have the stones to apologize. No, we are at war for the survival of this country, and they're standing in front of a Gatling gun with frickin' flowers like hippies from the 1960s. They need to stop it.
Yeah, I agree. Danette, thank you. Thank you. Very well said. Bernice in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Hey, Bernice, got a minute of the break. What's up?
Good morning, Tom. So I'm with her 100%, but can it be done legally?
Yes.
You know, okay, so they could just block anybody until hopefully.
Well, they could just refuse to show up or refuse to vote. They absolutely can do it. It's totally legal.
Yeah, but can they block?
Well, no.
Or will they? No.
They can filibuster. They could, you know, by refusing to vote. Well, somebody would have to call a filibuster. Somebody would have to object to the nomination, and which requires the 60-vote threshold. But at that point, Mitch McConnell could simply say, okay, you know, the Democrats did away with the filibuster for lower court vacancies, which forced Mitch McConnell to just slow walk 141 people who now have been discarded. Excuse me, these were all Obama nominees, and there's 141 open federal judgeships. But, you know, McConnell just, you know, McConnell will say, you know, the Democrats killed the filibuster for all the lower court things. We're going to kill a filibuster for the Republicans. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. And then they'll vote Gorsuch in. But it'll be entirely with Republican votes. And that would tell us all something, in my opinion.
Filibuster is that rule had to have been decided like at the beginning of the term of the Congress? No?
Yeah, the rules of the Senate are established as the first act of the Senate every 2 years. But that said, all the rules can be changed with a majority vote. So all they would require is 51 votes in the Senate to change the 60-vote threshold filibuster, which sounds a little weird, but it's true. And it really is a testimony to the self-restraint, I guess, of the Senate. But that's how it works. Bernice, thanks a lot for the call. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
And Fred McMurray continues to testify. We'll be back with your calls, your thoughts, Gorsuch, and everything else that's going on here. Stick around. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Yesterday was a great day. We raised $14,000. I mean, that's a big deal. And along with our match, it went to $21,000, which made up all of last week, or most of last week. And we're now, really where we need to be moving forward. So please, today we're trying to have a $10,000 day. If you can call now, 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution to help keep Free Speech TV going. This is such an amazing and such a critical time in the history of our country. We've got these hearings going on right now for the Supreme Court. We've got hearings going on about Russia and their involvement with the election, or their involvement with Donald Trump, or both. We've got hearings going on about the future. Mick Mulvaney came out yesterday and said that he thinks the Social Security disability insurance should be cut, that it's the fastest growing entitlement. So SSDI, this is now in the crosshairs. Mick Mulvaney is the OMB, the director of OMB. He's the budget director for Trump. He's the guy who writes the president's budgets. He speaks on behalf of the executive branch, on behalf of the president, and he's come out and said, oh, yeah, we should cut Social Security. Start with disability insurance, or words to that effect. So, there's amazing stuff going on. And like what I just told you about what Mick Mulvaney said, to the best of my knowledge, other than a small, article in the Washington Post, I have not seen this anywhere. I mean, it's certainly not on television. Because the television networks the big corporate television networks will not tell you things that reflect poorly on Republicans. It really just comes down to that. They're just not going to go there. The Republicans reflect the interests of giant multinational conglomerate corporations, which is what our so-called news media is. It's really an infotainment media. It's really just a money machine. And so we have to look for other places to go to get actual news about what's going on in the world. And Free Speech TV is right at the top of that list, providing news that is not run through a corporate filter. And that's a very, very valuable thing. And that's, I ask you, how valuable is it to you? Is it worth $10 a month? Is it worth $20 a month? Is it worth a one-time gift of a couple $100 if you can afford that? What is free speech? Here you're watching this, you're consuming this product, as it were. And there's a lot of people who put a lot of time and effort into bringing this product to you. And I guarantee you, none of us are compensated the way people are on network television. From here or at the level of Free Speech TV or whatever. It's like we're all running on shoestring budgets, keeping this thing going. And having to come to you, well, not having to, choosing to come to you, rather than, the path that NPR and others took of going to big corporations and right-wing think tanks and all that kind of stuff for money. Instead, we want you to be the decision makers, the arbiters, the people who are supporting the programs and the network. And I think it's a brilliant decision. So please call now, 877-378-8669. We have some goodies to give away. With a $60 gift, you get a Free Speech TV water bottle. The $60 is also $5 a month for a year. With a $120 gift, which would be $10 a month for a year, you get the book, The Revolution Where You Live, Stories from a 12,000-Mile Journey Through a New America by Sarah Van Gelder, the editor of Yes Magazine. With a $150 gift, you get both The Revolution Where You Live book and The Spirit of Standing Rock DVD. With a $240 gift, you get The Spirit of Standing Rock DVD, the Free Speech TV water bottle, the Free Speech TV grocery bag, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker. With a $360 gift, you get the Revolution Where You Live book, the Free Speech TV grocery bag, the Free Speech TV hat, the Free Speech TV hand fan, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Washington, D.C., and I'll take you out to lunch for a little pizza party with a few other people who watch Free Speech TV and or who have donated to Free Speech TV. And we'll have a really nice time. I really enjoy these afternoons that we we host people who are donors to Free Speech TV. It's really, really fun. So please, this network is important. This is important work that we're doing, that you're doing right now. Even just watching and sharing the information with others, that is the key to a functioning democracy, is an informed and educated populace. And all of us have a responsibility to help our friends and neighbors become those informed people. So the telephone number again is 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. And you can call now and let them know what you like. Let them know what programs you like on Free Speech TV and what you don't like, for that matter. You know, this is a great opportunity to provide some feedback. 877-378-8669. Thank you.
Hey, want to hear that clip again? Subscribe to the Thom Hartmann Program on YouTube to see all your favorite show highlights. All the important stories we cover and the issues we care about are at HartmannReport.com. Members of our community can comment and join the conversation.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Boy, what a day. What a fascinating time we live in. It's just all this stuff going on. Scott in Xenia, Ohio. Hey, Scott, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, how you doing today? You had said in the last hour that you guarantee we will have a Democratic president next time, and I hope to God we do, but I'm afraid we're past the tipping point, and we need to somehow bust through the right-wing bubble to ever have anyone elected, because they have set the bar so low with Trump that, like your troll that called in last hour to say how much Gorsuch sounded like a justice, that's all they need, is someone who looks the part.
Yeah, and which is what happened during the Reagan years. I mean, the same thing. By the way, somebody on Twitter, or maybe it was in our chat room, said that guy who called in, who said he had an open mind, he was calling into other talk shows last night. Apparently, he's a paid shill.
Oh, I have no doubt. And my point is this. We need a Frank Luntz on our side, and preferably a millennial, and someone that no one knows is a liberal or a progressive or whatever label they want to put on this person, that can bust through to them, because they do not listen to you, because they don't believe in critical thinking. We need someone who can boil things down to bumper sticker wisdom or 140 character wisdom that people on the other side see, because anytime someone from Mississippi gets screwed on Trump care, or someone loses benefits through the budget, it will all be blamed on Obama. You know as well as I do, the right wing is already working on how they can craft their message to blame anything wrong done by the right to be blamed on Obama, because he's their perfect foil in their minds.
Yeah, I would take it a step.
I'm really nervous that we don't have someone that can get through that bubble.
I would take it a step further than that, Scott. I would say that if you look at how the Republicans have been behaving since basically the 60s, but in large part since the 80s, whenever the Democrats come out and say, you know, we want to do A, B, or C, the Republicans say, oh, but you can't because of this much larger issue of, typically it's the national debt, you know. Oh, you know, we can't put people on the moon anymore because we've got the debt. We can't, fund cancer research. We've got the debt. We can't take care of, women and children who are vulnerable because we've got the debt. And, it's a fancy way of saying we're not going to raise taxes on billionaires or on very, very wealthy people or on corporations in order to fund your particular agenda. But it works. And so whatever the Democrats come out with, the Republicans come back. The Democrats come out with a pop gun or a BB gun, and the Republicans come back with a cannon. We're just going to nuke anything you say because of the debt. I think that the Democrats need to be doing the same thing to the Republicans. When the Republicans say, hey, we want to cut 20 million people off Obamacare by destroying Obamacare to 20 million more uninsured people, the Democrats should say, we want everybody in America to be eligible for Medicare. We want to give, they should totally throw in behind John Conyers' H.R. 676 and say this will, and just be clear about it, just loud about it. If you want to save 20 to 25% of the entire healthcare budget of the United States, trillions of dollars, you want to save that, well, it's $608 billion a year is wasted right now because of health insurance companies. And you want to save that $600 billion a year? Just go with single payer. Let's, but the problem is that it requires the entire Democratic Party to agree on that. And right now there's a debate inside the Democratic Party about whether single payer is even a good thing, which seems to me crazy. I mean, Harry Truman, a Democratic president, first proposed this in 1947. It's not like this was some brand new weird idea. And the Democratic Party has, at various times over the years, supported single-payer health care. And in fact, in the last presidential election, did in their platform. So, it's a tragedy that the rest of the elected officials aren't on board and that the party, doesn't speak with a unified voice. But I think that that's how they need to do it. We don't need a savior. We don't need a Frank Luntz. What we need is to start standing up and pushing back, using the frames and the memes that are historically the core of the Democratic Party. Mick Mulvaney comes out and says, oh, Social Security disability insurance, yeah, there's a lot of fraud and waste there. We'll take care of that. The Democrats should come back with monsters, like, elephants stomping through the forest, trumpeting, saying, oh, wait a minute, you're going to take our Social Security. We need to expand Social Security. We need to do away with the cap so that people who make over $125,000 or whatever it is now are still paying into the Social Security Trust Fund so that it'll be fully funded forever. We need to do away with this only working people who make under $125,000 pay Social Security taxes. That's insane. Rich people should be paying Social Security taxes just like everybody else. That's what the Democratic Party needs to be doing. It's what Bernie did, and it got him 20,000 people in a stadium in every city he went to. I mean, this is not rocket science. The evidence is all over the place that this works.
I got to tell you, Tom, I miss your lunch with Bernie. I mean, it was so awesome last year seeing his message resonate. My 26-year-old daughter absolutely swallowed that message. We need him to keep talking, to keep preaching to the people, because he does put it in terms everyone can understand.
Well, we need the entire party to do this, Scott.
Starting to come around, especially with this health care debate, once they realize that, yes, the ACA is the same thing as Obamacare. Right. And we just got to keep cramming this down their throats. You're right. Maybe not a Frank Luntz after all, but we need someone who can bust through that bubble.
Well, I think it's going to happen through an evolutionary process, as it were. My sense of it is, particularly with our revolution and the indivisible movement and all these other things that are waking up. There's a great piece in The Guardian this morning I printed out. I was going to talk about on the air today. About how there are people doing salons all over the country, where I think salon is the word that they're using, where they're inviting friends over. There's one guy who's doing it with fire pits. Yeah, here it is. Paris in Georgia is the title of the article. Political salons spring up across the U.S. in push against Trump. Taking inspiration from history, groups gather in Seattle, Minneapolis, San Francisco, and beyond to plan opposition and create an outlet for their concerns. It's by Amber Jameson in New York. And it's a brilliant piece about this grassroots movement of people, people waking up and coming together. As that happens, it's going to be harder and harder for Democrats who are not FDR Democrats, who are Wall Street Democrats. It's going to be harder and harder for them to get reelected. And just as a natural evolution, the party had swung to the right in the 90s and in the early 2000s, and the party is swinging back to the center now. And I say the center because the vast majority of Americans, 71% of Americans, think that Social Security should be fully funded and rich people should pay into it just like everybody else. Over 60% of Americans think we should have a single-payer health care system, Democrats and Republicans. There's this long list of things. I mean, the Progressive Change Campaign Committee, the PCCC, has done some brilliant polling on this. And America, this is the center of America, is basically, the Democratic Party's platform in the last election and Bernie Sanders' agenda. This is the center of America, and this is the direction that the Democratic Party is moving, and the Republican Party is still way out here in billionaire crackpot land. And that is not going to bode well for them, in my opinion. Although as I've said many times, I'm on Donald Trump's email list today. Donald Trump was fundraising on Gorsuch. Give money to our campaign for 2020 because we need to support Neil Gorsuch. And it was like, really? But that's, and they're very good with their messaging, and they're sending out all this stuff to all the press, particularly all the right-wing press, about their daily accomplishments. And Donald Trump is bragging about stuff in ways that haven't been done before by presidents, at least that I remember. I mean, maybe LBJ did some. But anyhow, Scott, I got to move along. Thank you for the call. Karen in Seattle. Hey, Karen, what's on your mind?
Well, I wanted to respond to your Trump imprimatur on massage parlors.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Trump's grandfather made a lot of his family wealth from prostitution in the gold rush.
That's right. Or at least that's what I've read.
Yeah. Well, no, he did. He did it. It's actually been fair. I mean, not directly. He never directly ran a brothel or was a madam himself, but he derived income from prostitution. And he built little restaurants with little cozy little side rooms, and people could wander in there. And
so he owned the buildings, basically.
Yeah. So the wealth, I think the Trump family wealth is based on prostitution, essentially.
So it's always been based on sexual slavery, basically. Well, it's perfectly consistent with Donald Trump's misogynistic worldview. Karen, thank you for that. Appreciate the call. We'll be right back. Stick around. We're coming up on quarter two.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Do you think Gorsuch is like Fred McMurray, or am I just like totally out in space? It's been a lot of years since I've seen Fred McMurray. I mean, he's dead now. But and welcome back. My staff is having great fun at my expense, I think. Yeah, Fred McMurray. Oh, yeah, where is Fred? MG in Stonewall, Oklahoma. Hey, thanks for watching Free Speech TV, MG. What's on your mind?
I'm a first-time caller. I've been watching your program for quite a while.
Thank you.
I just wanted to tell you my grandmother was born in 1905. She was a little Cherokee woman, and she always told me, she said, the R in Republican stands for rich.
Yeah.
And she lived through the Great Depression. And I've been noticing here lately that Trump's hero was Andrew Jackson.
Yep.
And if you know history, you know what he done to Native people.
Oh yeah, he was the great killer of Native people.
Yeah.
Trail of Tears was the most conspicuous.
So we see I think what Trump's doing in Standing Rock and everything else that he's going to be doing is really going to hurt a lot of not only Native people, but everybody.
Yeah.
And another thing I was wanting to bring to your attention, I know this is going a ways back, but I'm wondering why nobody has never put together about Trump's Giuliani, or whatever his name is.
Yeah, Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah, Rudy Giuliani. A few days before the last email deal come out on Hillary, I was watching him on a show, and he was saying that something big was going to happen within 2 or 3 days. And how did he know? And within 2 or 3 days, the last email deal happened. Where did he get his information?
Well, he seemed to know, and who knows, but he seemed to know that Comey was going to come out with his announcement. And that announcement was an absolute bombshell. We found 30,000 of Hillary Clinton's emails on Anthony Weiner, Carlos Dangers' computer. Yeah. And that was the point. If you look at the day-to-day tracking polling, that was the point at which Hillary Clinton dropped below Donald Trump. And she was starting to get back up to be above Donald Trump. And then 3 days before the election, Comey comes out again and reminds us all about it all over again by saying, well, we didn't find anything on the computer. But her emails were there. And in the first announcement, he actually criticized Hillary Clinton. He said she was extremely careless. She was reckless. Yeah. I mean, this is the director of the FBI saying a candidate for president of the United States was careless and reckless. How does that not influence an election? That's huge.
I'm right with you. Hey, you're doing a great job. I enjoy listening to you, and I tell everybody to watch your program. So,
well, thank you, MG. Thank you very much.
That's okay. I thank you and appreciate what you're doing.
Sure, thank you, and I appreciate your kind words. This is this thing with Comey. I mean, people forget that Comey was a Republican. He stood up once to Alberto Gonzales. When George W. Bush wanted his torture program, certified by the FBI, and the head of the FBI was laying in a hospital room recovering from, as I recall, a burst appendix or something like that. Yeah, he had some sort of medical crisis. And Gonzales went over to get him to sign away, America's integrity. And Comey got there first and stopped it from happening, which really angered Gonzales and Bush. And that was like a moment at which we all said, wow, this guy's a good guy. Well, time since then has indicated he's a little more partisan than he looked. We'll be back. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Luke Vargas on the line with us with Talk Media News, brought to you by goatsfortheoldgoat.com. Hey, Luke.
Hey, Tom. How's it going?
Great. Great to have you with us. So DHS has put new ban. I mentioned this in the first hour, actually, on electronics on flights in the Middle East and North Africa into the United States. Apparently, they have some intelligence that somebody is thinking about or planning on replacing batteries with bombs or circuit boards with bombs.
Yeah, according to DHS, they say there is specific intelligence which indicates terrorists want to attack commercial airliners and that they are looking into ways to get explosives into consumer devices. That is the alleged rationale for a policy which was rolled out, again, in what looks to be quite great haste. Sort of the theme of the first few dozen days of the Trump administration is that the security-related orders don't seem to have had a tremendous amount of attention to detail applied to them. Asked which sorts of large electronic devices are now banned to be in cabins on these foreign flights, the DHS said anything larger than a cell phone, pressed for exactly what that means, given that things which are cell phones now come in all sort of shapes and sizes. The DHS spokesperson said phones are commonly available around the world, and their size is well understood by most passengers. So, of course, that's the sort of crystal clear clarity we love.
The flip side of this, Luke, is that they're saying if you've got something bigger than a cell phone, you have to put it in checked cargo. If a bomb goes off in checked cargo, the plane goes down just as much as if the bomb goes off in the cabin. How is this any kind of solution?
Well, you're exactly right about that. I just want to rewind because if those of you who didn't hear the segment earlier in the show, this pertains to 10 airports that are final destinations for flights going to the United States. They are all in majority Muslim countries. Big airports are affected: Amman, the capital of Jordan, Cairo, Dubai, Doha, Istanbul, Riyadh. And this is pretty much focused on Middle Eastern Gulf airlines, many of which are subsidized by their home governments. So it is leading a lot of people to not only raise issue with exactly whether or not these devices are threats in and of themselves being in cabins, but is this not also a protectionist measure?
They're not applying this to U.S. airlines?
It is not applied to U.S. airlines. It sort of presumes that U.S. airlines leaving from these what we would call unsafe airports somehow enjoy some sort of bubble of security that their foreign operators do not. For example, and it's worth pointing out, in places like Dubai and Abu Dhabi, giant carriers like Emirates actually use TSA agents, members of Customs and Border Patrol, U.S. security, to screen people going onto these flights. Right. But those airlines are now banned from having their passengers use these. I think there is a strong argument building from people who are critical of this, saying this is a protectionist measure, that American airlines have long been protesting the fact that a lot of their Middle Eastern competitors are subsidized by governments. That's allowed them to increase their global market share. You've actually seen some of these airlines really starting to move into the U.S. market, buying up sort of regional carriers here. And basically, the biggest calling card that those big companies had was their business classes, their first classes, which were so much better, even their coach classes, so much better than their American competitors.
Bedrooms, basically.
Exactly. So business travelers are looking at a flight from Dubai to the United States on an obviously better and cheaper Emirates flight. they're going to say, well, if my laptop and my iPad have to go into my checked baggage. And I will also mention, I mean, this is a concern now that it didn't really exist as much during the Obama age, but I was just in Mexico, and CEOs of major corporations I talked to there say, we're coming back to the U.S. and we're having our cell phones searched. Customs is asking us to go into our social media accounts. We have proprietary information on our devices. We don't just want to turn over our data to the U.S. government. I think that same concern exists here. I mean, if you're a major oil executive in the Middle East, or, I guess they'd be flying on private planes, but someone who has intellectual property on their phone, you don't just want to check that over. I mean, files could be uploaded. So there's concern about being parted with your devices here. So it seems like, and the fact that we've now seen the Brits follow up with the same order, we are expecting the French and the Germans might follow suit and enact similar restrictions.
Well,
this looks to be a bid to protect what we call legacy air carriers, the ones who have been hurt the most.
All of those countries have stopped underwriting their airlines. I mean, British Airways used to be underwritten by the British government. Lufthansa used to be underwritten by the German government. And it used to be, I mean, back in the 70s and 80s, you could get so much better service on some of these airlines.
Sure.
And they were just so spiffy compared to the American Airlines.
And
they've done away with all that.
Yeah, let me just say, I mean, the Brits announced that they're going to put a similar restriction on. Their intelligence sources have been telling the press this is not in response to a specific intelligence threat, which really seems to undermine the argument that the U.S. is putting forward, that they had learned about some sort of specific threat using these small electronic devices to target planes.
So
the Brits seem to be saying, hey, if the U.S. is going to clear the lane for us to enable this sort of policy, we're just going to enact it, but we're not going to fully back up their rationale for doing it.
Fascinating stuff.
Interesting
now,
story.
Meanwhile, North Korea, we've got Kim Jong-un doing his best Borat impersonation. And the U.S. is now talking about new sanctions against North Korea. What, China has just cut off their sales of coal to China, which is going to hurt Kim. What are we talking about doing?
The U.S. is looking into what we would call secondary sanctions, which is not just hitting entities within North Korea, but going after, in this case, Chinese banks in particular who are transacting with North Korean organizations or would sort of serve as a front for North Korean state agencies which operate within China. This is sort of the model followed by the U.S. with regard to Iranian sanctions several years ago. It wasn't just about punishing Iran directly, but it was about making life so difficult for big international financial institutions that were dealing with Iran that they basically said, okay, fine, we don't want to run afoul of the United States. We're going to stop dealing with Iran. That really helped bring Iran to the negotiating table. Right. I think there is some skepticism among people who understand the world of international sanctions that it's going to be so easy to get this to work for North Korea. I mean, Iran is a very wealthy country. They're trading in oil, a commodity which moves across official channels a lot of the time, big international payments, and they relied on large financial institutions to do that. A lot of these Chinese banks which interact with North Korea are very small. They're not terribly well connected into the global finance world, so punishing them for that and threatening to cut them off is not going to carry the same sting with it. I will say, though, this is a reassuring statement to some people who have been very concerned by words from Secretary of State Rex Tillerson last week, who, while traveling in Japan, said, look, diplomatic efforts have come to a dead end. I mean, basically, America's top diplomat saying diplomacy wasn't going to do anything with North Korea in the future got people worried that we were maybe shifting away from diplomacy and economic sanctions and moving towards more military options. At least for now, it looks like over the next few weeks before the Chinese president shows up in Washington in early April, the U.S. is going to give what could be sort of a last shot at using diplomatic sanctions, economic sanctions, to try and modify North Korean behavior. But again, it does seem to be that even despite this, the U.S. is sort of reaching the end of the road, that we just don't see a whole lot more success that can come of this.
It used to be conventional wisdom that North Korea, one of their major sources of foreign currency was selling methamphetamine and other drugs into the illegal drug market. Is that still the case?
I believe there is still a lot of connection between illicit commodities and North Korean profits. I mean, North Korea runs a whole lot of operations around the world, both with their name attached to it and not. Just in Malaysia, we heard there was a big arms smuggling operation going on there where Kim Jong-un's brother was assassinated. So their tentacles fan out far and wide.
Remarkable, remarkable. Luke Vargas for Talk Media News, the UN Bureau Chief for Talk Media News. Thank you, Luke.
Thank you, Tom. Take care.
Always informative to speak with you. We'll be back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by the Aiden Forecast, an investment newsletter with weekly updates of leading market indicators and a monthly deep dive into what the details of the economy and the markets mean for investors and retirees. On the web at aidenmarkets.com.
Wines have some of the highest pesticide levels in our food chain. This hour brought to you by ecowine.com. Pesticide-free wines, organic wines, imported from France by the Organic Wine Company, ecowine.com.
The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Super Beets. Super Beets are sourced from non-GMO beets, and they're packed with dietary nitrates, helping to produce nitric oxide for more energy, stamina, and support for healthy blood pressure levels naturally. For more information, call 800-223-8242 or visit freespeechbeets.com. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Yesterday was a great day. We raised $14,000. I mean, that's a big deal. And along with our match, it went to $21,000, which made up all of last week, or most of last week. And we're now, really where we need to be moving forward. So please, today we're trying to have a $10,000 day. If you can call now, 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution to help keep Free Speech TV going. This is such an amazing and such a critical time in the history of our country. We've got these hearings going on right now for the Supreme Court. We've got hearings going on about Russia and their involvement with the election, or their involvement with Donald Trump, or both. We've got hearings going on about the future. Mick Mulvaney came out yesterday and said that he thinks the Social Security disability insurance should be cut, that it's the fastest growing entitlement. So SSDI, this is now in the crosshairs. Mick Mulvaney is the OMB, the director of OMB. He's the budget director for Trump. He's the guy who writes the president's budgets. He speaks on behalf of the executive branch, on behalf of the president, and he's come out and said, oh, yeah, we should cut Social Security. Start with disability insurance, or words to that effect. So, there's amazing stuff going on. And like what I just told you about what Mick Mulvaney said, to the best of my knowledge, other than a small, article in the Washington Post, I have not seen this anywhere. I mean, it's certainly not on television. Because the television networks the big corporate television networks will not tell you things that reflect poorly on Republicans. It really just comes down to that. They're just not going to go there. The Republicans reflect the interests of giant multinational conglomerate corporations, which is what our so-called news media is. It's really an infotainment media. It's really just a money machine. And so we have to look for other places to go to get actual news about what's going on in the world. And Free Speech TV is right at the top of that list, providing news that is not run through a corporate filter. And that's a very, very valuable thing. And that's, I ask you, how valuable is it to you? Is it worth $10 a month? Is it worth $20 a month? Is it worth a one-time gift of a couple $100 if you can afford that? what is free speech? You know, here you're watching this, you're consuming this product, as it were. And there's a lot of people who put a lot of time and effort into bringing this product to you. And I guarantee you, none of us are compensated the way people are on network television. You know, from here or, you know, at the level of free speech TV or whatever. It's like we're all running on shoestring budgets, keeping this thing going. And having to come to you, well, not having to, choosing to come to you, rather than, you know, the path that NPR and others took of going to big corporations and right-wing think tanks and all that kind of stuff for money. Instead, you know, we want you to be the decision makers, the arbiters, the people who are supporting the programs and the network. And I think it's a brilliant decision. So please call now, 877-378-8669. We have some goodies to give away with a $60 gift. You get a free speech TV water bottle. The $60 is also $5 a month for a year. With a $120 gift, which would be $10 a month for a year, you get the book, The Revolution Where You Live, Stories from a 12,000-Mile Journey Through a New America by Sarah Van Gelder, the editor of Yes Magazine. With a $150 gift, you get both The Revolution Where You Live book and The Spirit of Standing Rock DVD. With a $240 gift, you get The Spirit of Standing Rock DVD, the Free Speech TV water bottle, the Free Speech TV grocery bag, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker. With a $360 gift, you get The Revolution Where You Live book, the Free Speech TV grocery bag, the Free Speech TV hat, the Free Speech TV hand fan, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Washington, D.C., and I'll take you out to lunch for a little pizza party with a few other people who watch Free Speech TV and or who have donated to Free Speech TV. And we'll have a really nice time. I really enjoy these afternoons that we host people who are donors to Free Speech TV. It's really, really fun. So please, this network is important. This is important work that we're doing, that you're doing right now. Even just watching and sharing the information with others. That is the key to a functioning democracy, is an informed and educated populace. And all of us have a responsibility to help our friends and neighbors become those informed people. So the telephone number again is 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. And you can call now and let them know what you like. Let them know what programs you like on Free Speech TV and what you don't like, for that matter. You know, this is a great opportunity to provide some feedback. 877-378-8669. Thank you. The footers and headers are not turned on. Common Dreams? Okay, great. Thank you. Oh, yeah, it says on Common Dreams up at the top. Tom Newmark and Stephen Farrell wrote a piece titled Beyond Wetico Agriculture, Saving Ourselves from the Soil Up. Wetico is a word that Professor Jack Forbes at the University of California at Davis, now deceased, shared with me back in 1992. And I wrote into my book, The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, in 94. It got published in 96, as I recall. And it's a Native American word that means a cannibal, a person who consumes the life force of another. And so what is the word cannibal doing in the same sentence with the word agriculture? Well, here it is. He said, they write, how much longer do you hope to live? How long do you hope your children or grandchildren will live? You think you or your loved ones will live 60 more years? If so, you'll be around to witness the end of food production on our planet. And then he's citing a United Nations report that due to human ecological malfeasance, we only have 60 harvests left on this wasting planet. That's it, 60 more years of food
and then the industrial agribiz frenzy is over. And it might even be worse than that. The Environmental Audit Committee, the British House of Commons, warned that, quote, some of the most productive agricultural land in England is at risk of becoming unprofitable within a generation through soil erosion and loss of carbon, and the natural environment will be seriously harmed. End of quote. Indeed, Tom Newmark writes, in some places it's already happening. Food systems around the world are breaking down, and the resulting food shortages have led to wars and revolutions. Starving people are risking everything as they flee to areas where there is still food. And basically, he puts the onus of all this at the feet of industrialized agriculture. I reread Dan Quinn's book, Ishmael, back last month. I talked about it on the air a couple times while I was reading it, because I read that book back in the 90s, and it was such a wake up. And then rereading it kind of re-woke me up all over again. Daniel Quinn is just an absolutely brilliant man, and his book, Ishmael, is something that everybody must read at some point. And he talks about the impact of the agricultural revolution, and that's really very much what we're talking about here. Another piece that I wanted to mention to you by, I never know how to pronounce this name, Y-V-E-S. How do you say that name? Eve. Yeah, okay, Eve Smith. And thank you, Chris. A market. This is published over at Naked Capitalism, and Eve Smith. It's a pseudonym for a woman. This is her website. But in any case, she writes a Market Watch article last week by Rex Nutting posited that Amazon, that's not the river, this is the company here in the United States, Amazon could destroy as many as 2 million jobs, which are as many as one study said were lost to China. Since 2012, department store jobs have shrunk by 250,000, 14% of that sector's total employment. Retailers now employ 16.5 million, and Nutting backs out categories like gas stations that aren't subject to competition from Amazon. Bear in mind, Amazon is moving into groceries. He deems the 12 million workers to be at risk. So, basically what's happening, and it's happening as we're watching, is we are seeing once again the emergence of a monolith, of a giant, arguably a trust or a monopoly that prior to 1980 probably would not have been allowed to get so large that it's threatening basically the entire retail sector of the United States. Now, you may love, the service that Amazon provides and all that, but what if they were told, sorry, you have to break up into 5 companies, like AT&T was told by Richard Nixon. We're going to enforce the Sherman Antitrust Act. We can't have basically one phone company for the whole country. So AT&T broke up into 7 companies, plus Lucent Laboratories, which was AT&T Research, or AT&T Labs, I guess it was called. And what that did was it increased, actually, shareholder value for anybody who owns stock in AT&T, and it spurred this incredible wave of innovation. Now, they're all reconsolidated now, by and large. But we had about 20 years there where there was a lot of competition in the telco field. And what happened, we had an explosion of innovation in telephony and in telephone services. So I would submit to you that what Amazon is doing here is what is, classically the new American business model, which is grow so large that nobody can compete with you, squash any competitor, just stomp on them with your giant foot, and control your market share vigorously, and use laws like the patent and copyright laws, trademark laws. These are referred to as government monopolies. I refer you to Thomas Jefferson, who felt that neither the copyright or patent, nor patents, nor trademarks should last more than 3 years. And now they're lasting like the life of the creator plus 70 and stuff like that. It's nuts. Using these monopoly laws to basically have and enforce monopolies. So there's that. Meanwhile, CEO pay is higher than ever. This is from Market Watch. Theo Francis and Joanne Lublin writing, stock market is up and so is CEO pay again. Twice as many companies increased their chief's pay as reduced it. A few high-profile bosses took pay cuts, but pretty much everybody else is doing really well. Last year, median annual pay for CEOs
was around $10.8 million. And the higher pay was doled out as the stock market notched strong gains and corporate profits rebounded over the course of 2016. So, here we are. We're back with CEOs making the kind of money that they were making just before the crash. Why do we keep coming back to just before the crash? Right? Income inequality is right where it was before the crash, both the crash of 2008 and the crash of 1929. CEO pay is back where it was before the crash. Corporate profitability is back where it was before the crash. And in a normal environment, you'd say, oh, gee, those are all signs of a healthy environment. I would say that these are all signs of a bubble. These are signs of a non-healthy environment. And meanwhile, you've got Sean Spicer now saying that this healthcare bill, it's not really a healthcare bill. It's a almost $1 trillion tax cut for rich people. Because what Obamacare did is it said, we're going to give health care to a lot of working class and working poor people in the United States. And they can't afford it. And so we're going to take money from rich people. Rich people who get their income from capital gains. They make their money on the stock market, or they make their money, in Wall Street or whatever, and they qualify for capital gains tax. Now, the top capital gains rate is 20%. Whereas if you earn your money, with a paycheck, like I do, like most people do, you earn your money with a paycheck, your top income tax rate is 39%. So what they did when they put Obamacare together is they said, we've got all these rich people in the United States, and you've got to be just deeply rich to even qualify for your income to be capital gains. If there was any way that a little business like mine, like this radio show, could do that, I would do it. Hey, everybody wants to have their taxes cut, but there's no way. There's no way. We're not $1 billion corporation. We're a small operation with fewer than a dozen employees, and I don't have access to those kind of tax games that rich people do. And so when they put together Obamacare, they said, there's this class of people that are economically way above Hartmann, and they're just richer than whatever, and they're only paying 20% income tax. So let's add a 3.9% surcharge to that so that they're now paying almost 24% income tax. And those people are so rich and they're taking so much money that just that 3.9% is going to generate something on the order of $100 billion a year. This is a mind-boggling amount of money that we can use to subsidize insurance for poor people and working people in the United States. And that's what they did. This is how Obamacare works. It is a transfer of wealth from the rich to the poor. But the rich are not paying their fair share to begin with. So, it's an entirely reasonable transfer of wealth. But see, the rich people are the ones who own the Republicans. And so now you get people like, Mick Mulvaney coming out here saying, well, I can't ask a coal miner in West Virginia or a single mom in Detroit to pay for somebody else's, fill in the blank, right? Somebody else's health care. Really what he's saying is, I can't ask the Koch brothers to pay for your health care anymore. I can't ask the, Phil Anschutz to pay for it. I can't ask, Shelley Adelson to pay for your health care anymore. I'm sorry. The Wall Street billionaires, Jamie Dimon and all these guys, we can't ask them to pay for your health care anymore. They pay our checks. They fund the Republican Party. They are our paymasters. We can't ask them to continue paying on this stuff. And so now Sean Spicer is saying this bill, which cuts all these taxes, is the most conservative thing ever. What these guys have done is completely redefine conservative. Conservative used to have to do with a set of principles. Now, they're not principles with which I agree, but they were at least principles. Read The Conservative Mind back in 1952, and, it lays it out. But now it just means, hang on.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Now, quote, conservative simply means fully owned shill of the billionaire class and the transnational corporate class. That's it. And welcome back. Helen, watching Free Speech TV in Fairmont, West Virginia. Near your hometown, hey, Troy? Maybe, maybe not. Okay, a little bit south. Hey, Helen, what's up?
Hey, I wanted to ask you a question. Didn't Gorsuch represent Hobby Lobby in the lawsuit in the Supreme Court?
I don't think so. I think that he was one of the judges who ruled in a lower court in favor of Hobby Lobby that ended it caused it to get kicked up to the Supreme Court. But I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that's the case.
Okay, let me ask you a question. I think that's a terrible case, a terrible decision. But let me ask you something. If I'm a religious family and I own a business and I don't believe in blood transfusions, will that mean that I don't have to insure you for blood transfusions?
Well,
that's a stupid law.
Yeah, that's the logic of the law. The thing is, though, that they really just apply it to women.
Right.
And, you know, because really what it's about is male supremacy.
Right. Let me ask you something else. Do you think all the red hats should get a hammer and sickle embroidered on them?
The red hats. Are you talking about the
Trump supporters?
Oh, the Trump supporters, the Make America Great hats. I thought you were talking about the hats that women were wearing here in D.C. the day after the inauguration.
No, I like the hammer and sickle one.
Yeah. Well, you know, unfortunately, not unfortunately, it's probably a much better thing. You know, communism is dead. Even the Chinese and the Vietnamese, even though they call themselves communists, they're practicing something that Karl Marx would never recognize. So, you know, I don't think hammer and sickle is the best. If you're trying to imply that they're, you know, in bed with Russia, then, you know, you'd have to use the flag of Russia, you know, the modern Russian logo or something like that, or, you know, a picture of Vladimir Putin. But Russia is no longer a communist country. You know, Russia's yeah, they're out free enterprising us in some regards.
In quotes, democracy, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, in my opinion, the problem that one of the problems that Russia's facing, and it's a problem that the United States is facing as well, is that when Yeltsin collapsed, basically, or when the Soviet Union collapsed and Yeltsin became president, the Chicago School, we sent a bunch of Chicago school boys over there, you know, to say, let's put into place Milton Friedman's grand experiment. Let's try creating a libertarian state here in Russia. And to a large extent, they did that. And the predictable result of that is the exact same thing that's happened here in the United States, to the extent that we've done the same thing, which is the emergence of oligarchs, of billionaires who then use their economic power as if it were political power. And, you know, this is a problem that's happening in the United States. It's happening in Russia. It's happening in the UK. To a much smaller level, it's happening in a few other developed countries. But we're the three countries that have been the most aggressive in pursuing the so-called free market. And it's becoming, frankly, in my opinion, very problematic for all of us. But yeah,
I wish there were one Republican I could say I admire at this point.
Well, Susan Collins isn't terrible, but she's still a Republican. So, you know, Helen, thank you for the call, and thanks for your pithy wit. It's great. I love it. Thanks so much. We'll be right back with more of your calls after this.
This year's election results have generated fear, sadness, and despair.
In the days and months ahead,
our democracy may face a crisis of historic proportions.
But there is good news.
There is good news.
There is good news. Thousands of people are stepping forward in solidarity,
resistance,
and resolve.
We join them.
We join them.
We join them.
In standing with the most vulnerable communities among us.
Those most likely to be targeted by new restrictions and policies.
We will tell their stories here.
Here
on Free Speech TV.
We will lift their voices here
on Free Speech TV.
In the difficult times ahead, know that we will be with you 24 hours a day.
Every day.
You are not alone.
You are not alone.
You are not alone.
There are millions of us.
Raising our voices and hearts together as one.
We've got your back.
We got your back.
Free Speech TV's got your back.
The revolution is in progress.
and Nick in Madison, Wisconsin. Hey, Nick, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. Thanks for having me. And first, I'd like to say that, I'm a conservative, but I listen to you, as much as I can because you are very respectful and you always try to get all sides. And that's rare.
Well, thank you,
in
Nick.
the radio world. So I appreciate that.
I grew up in a conservative household, and I loved and respected my father, and I really tried to understand the world through his eyes.
Yeah,
and he was my first politics teacher.
Okay. Obviously, so did I. And what I'd like to say is that I grew up in a conservative household too, and what amazes me is Donald Trump has this amazing magical ability to make conservatives' principles disappear.
Yeah, when did grabbing women's crotches become a conservative principle?
Not only that, I mean, it's well, yes, definitely, yes. But the big thing is, I remember growing up listening when my dad, I worked in my dad's shop, and he listened to Rush Limbaugh, and Rush Limbaugh always said, words mean things. And now Donald Trump tweets out stupid things, and people are defending it.
Yep. Because they're afraid of him. And this, by the way, there's been a lot written. I just got a new copy of The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich by William Scherer. But in the 32 and 33, there were a number of American news outlets in Germany that were explicitly told by their networks, tone down the reporting from Germany, you're starting to sound hysterical. And, by the end of 33, it was clear that they were not being hysterical. But this is how that kind of rise was dealt with, and they were afraid of Hitler, and what they were afraid of was the equivalent of a tweet. They were afraid that he was going to call them out, and then the brown shirts would come down on them. Sometimes physically, sometimes the tax apparatus of the country would come after them. Sometimes there's a whole variety of ways that Hitler took out his enemies. And we're seeing something very similar right now where you've got Republicans in the House and Senate scared to death that Donald Trump is going to tweet something bad about them. And now you've even got business leaders scared to death Donald Trump is going to tweet something bad about them, to the point that they will lie about what he's doing and say, oh, yes, he's creating jobs, like General Motors, when in fact that the job creation at General Motors that Trump is taking credit for was part of the contract negotiations 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I would hate to be Sean Spicer, actually, because he has to wake up every Monday morning wondering what he has to respond to with his Saturday morning tweets, Saturday night tweets. But it's not just words mean things. It's just things like free trade, things like everything. Trump says so many stupid things. And
so, Nick, as a conservative, what are you going to do about this?
Well, I have to wait out the next 4 years, and then we'll see what happens, basically.
Yeah. So you feel that the Republican Party has betrayed you, or just Donald Trump?
I think, really what I think is that a lot of people thought the Republican Party betrayed them because they didn't repeal Obamacare, but it's basic arithmetic. They didn't have the numbers. They couldn't do it. So they decided.
Well, they didn't have the White House. They actually, voted to repeal it 40 some odd times.
They didn't have a veto-proof majority.
Right.
So they went to strongman, which is history has shown is a dangerous thing.
Mm-hmm.
And now here's where we are. So.
The big question in my mind, Nick, is will American democracy survive the Trump administration? And I mean that seriously. I think it's already been eroded and degraded so badly by the presence of this man.
I think it will.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. And that people like you and me who have respect for each other's point of views, even though we differ, can continue to live in a country where we're both completely free to speak our truths. I don't see it going in that direction right now, but I hope that we can recover it. Nick, thanks a lot for the call. It's great to hear from you. We'll be back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
So what do you think Democrats should do about Mr. Gorsuch and about Mitch McConnell's decision to turn back on the Supreme Court? Welcome to the Thom Hartmann Book Club.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Yesterday was a great day. We raised $14,000. I mean, that's a big deal. And along with our match, it went to $21,000, which made up all of last week, or most of last week. And we're now, really where we need to be moving forward. So please, today we're trying to have a $10,000 day. If you can call now, 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution to help keep Free Speech TV going. This is such an amazing and such a critical time in the history of our country. We've got these hearings going on right now for the Supreme Court. We've got hearings going on about Russia and their involvement with the election, or their involvement with Donald Trump, or both. We've got hearings going on about the future. Mick Mulvaney came out yesterday and said that he thinks the Social Security disability insurance should be cut, that it's the fastest growing entitlement. So SSDI, this is now in the crosshairs. Mick Mulvaney is the OMB, the director of OMB. He's the budget director for Trump. He's the guy who writes the president's budgets. He speaks on behalf of the executive branch, on behalf of the president, and he's come out and said, oh, yeah, we should cut Social Security. Start with disability insurance, or words to that effect. So, there's amazing stuff going on. And like what I just told you about what Mick Mulvaney said, to the best of my knowledge, other than a small, article in the Washington Post, I have not seen this anywhere. I mean, it's certainly not on television. Because the television networks the big corporate television networks will not tell you things that reflect poorly on Republicans. It really just comes down to that. They're just not going to go there. The Republicans reflect the interests of giant multinational conglomerate corporations, which is what our so-called news media is. It's really an infotainment media. It's really just a money machine. And so we have to look for other places to go to get actual news about what's going on in the world. And Free Speech TV is right at the top of that list, providing news that is not run through a corporate filter. And that's a very, very valuable thing. And that's, I ask you, how valuable is it to you? Is it worth $10 a month? Is it worth $20 a month? Is it worth a one-time gift of a couple $100 if you can afford that? What is free speech? Here you're watching this, you're consuming this product, as it were. And there's a lot of people who put a lot of time and effort into bringing this product to you. And I guarantee you, none of us are compensated the way people are on network television. From here or at the level of Free Speech TV or whatever. It's like we're all running on shoestring budgets, keeping this thing going, and having to come to you, well, not having to, choosing to come to you, rather than, the path that NPR and others took of going to big corporations and right-wing think tanks and all that kind of stuff for money. Instead, we want you to be the decision makers, the arbiters, the people who are supporting the programs and the network. And I think it's a brilliant decision. So please call now, 877-378-8669. We have some goodies to give away. With a $60 gift, you get a Free Speech TV water bottle. The $60 is also $5 a month for a year. With a $120 gift, which would be $10 a month for a year, you get the book, The Revolution Where You Live, Stories from a 12,000-Mile Journey Through a New America by Sarah Van Gelder, the editor of Yes Magazine. With a $150 gift, you get both The Revolution Where You Live book and The Spirit of Standing Rock DVD. With a $240 gift, you get The Spirit of Standing Rock DVD, the Free Speech TV water bottle, the Free Speech TV grocery bag, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker. With a $360 gift, you get The Revolution Where You Live book, the Free Speech TV grocery bag, the Free Speech TV hat, the Free Speech TV hand fan, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Washington, D.C., and I'll take you out to lunch for a little pizza party with a few other people who watch Free Speech TV and or who have donated to Free Speech TV. And we'll have a really nice time. really enjoy these afternoons that we host people who are donors to Free Speech TV. It's really, really fun. So please, this network is important. This is important work that we're doing, that you're doing right now. Even just watching and sharing the information with others, that is the key to a functioning democracy, is an informed and educated populace. And all of us have a responsibility to help our friends and neighbors become those informed people. So the telephone number again is 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669. And you can call now and let them know what you like. Let them know what programs you like on Free Speech TV and what you don't like, for that matter. You know, this is a great opportunity to provide some feedback. 877-378-8669. Thank you.
Hey, want to hear that clip again? Subscribe to the Thom Hartmann Program on YouTube to see all your favorite show highlights. All the important stories we cover and the issues we care about are at HartmannReport.com. Members of our community can comment and join the conversation.
Wow, this is interesting. Nicole Wallace on MSNBC. This is Jason Easley wrote this, and let's see, what is the website? Oh, it's at politicasusa.com. And Republican strategist and MSNBC contributor Nicole Wallace said that people outside of the administration who have spent time with Trump said that the president is showing signs of paranoia and delusion over his belief that Obama wiretapped him. She said, and I quote, "I sense that they have no plans today of walking away from this claim. This is still the president's belief. Some folks still close to the president, but not in the White House staff, said it's a word I can't say on family-friendly TV, but the initials are B and S. Another person who spent time with the president this weekend in Florida said it was signs of paranoia and delusion around this idea that he's so right. Interestingly, he has sought to have people outside the government corroborate this wiretapping claim, which either suggests this observation of paranoia and delusion is in fact operational or extreme ignorance of all the powers at his disposal and all the investigative powers of the federal government." Sean Spicer was just talking a moment ago about how there's a deep state and there are people during the Obama administration who burrowed themselves deep into the government. And now they're like sitting there like little, well, he didn't add this part, I will, like little prairie dogs in their holes with conning towers, what are those, periscopes, you know, like submarine periscopes, waiting for Donald Trump to walk by so that they can jump up and go, boo! Now, you know, yeah, I'm sort of making fun of it, but Hitler was paranoid. I mean, clinically paranoid. Watch the movie Downfall sometime. The 16-year-old boy who brought Hitler the story, you know, the news that he had lost the war. A 16-year-old boy. His name was Armin Lehman. Armin-Lehman. Armin and I, back in the 70s and 80s, or back in the 80s, I started doing this in 82 and did it with Armin until probably around 86 or thereabouts. We used to travel around the world, literally all around the world, and teach seminars to the travel industry. We taught them to airlines, we taught them to cruise ships, we taught them to travel agents on, you know, how travel worked and how to market travel. And it was a marketing seminar that we put together. And it wasn't just Armin and me. There were a few other people involved, and there was a company out of San Francisco that was doing the thing, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the company or the name of the guy who owned it, and he may still be alive. But I had no idea the first few years that I knew Armin. And then when I started doing my radio show in 2003, we had 2004 or 5, we had moved to Oregon, and Armin contacted me. He lived in Oregon. And he said, you know, I was the last person with Adolf Hitler before he committed suicide. I was the guy who brought him the news. I was 16 years old. And I was like, Armin, you know, this is amazing. And he's like, and I wrote a book about it, which has not been published. And he wanted to come to my home and leave the manuscript with me in case anything happened to him. I said, fine, come on over. I still have that original manuscript. Armin published it. It's called In the Fuhrer's Bunker, as I recall. Or the first version was called Hitler's Last Courier. And Armin died a few years ago, but he committed his life to peace. He started a little foundation. He had a website, Armin Lehman's, you know, peace site. And the one thing that, and Armin used to tell me stories about Hitler. And the one story that I remember most vividly is Armin's absolute conviction that Adolf Hitler had gone insane. His hands were trembling, his voice was shaking, he seemed to have no control over himself. And this is why I say watch the movie Downfall. It's probably on Netflix. It's in German, it's subtitled. But, Armin, as I recall, Armin saw that. It might be it came out after he died, but I don't think so. I recall, I have a recollection of discussing it with Armin. Sometimes memory plays tricks on us, But it was when Hitler became paranoid, which apparently happened in the early 30s, when he started using amphetamines in a big way. Because Hitler was a relatively young man at that time. He was in his, mid to late 40s. And whereas Trump is 70. So I don't think that I don't think he has to take amphetamines to make himself crazy or paranoid. I think all he has to do is just, be himself and surround himself with nutty people. I mean, he surrounds himself with people like Alex Jones and Michael Savage and Mark Levin. I mean, he's got these right-wing conspiracy theorists who, arguably brought him to power. I'm very concerned about this. Heather in Seal Beach, California. Hey, Heather, what's on your mind today?
Going back to your first hour, shortly after Trump had the phone call with the Chinese where he said he'd agree to the one state, there was an article that was written, an investigative piece. I want to say it was the New Yorker or the New York Times. I'll have to find it when I'm not driving. But they investigated, they kind of did a timeline, and they went back through the fact that Trump had been trying to get those trademarks and patents in China for over 10 years, and he had been consistently denied. And once he had that phone conversation and said, oh, yes, I'll commit to the one state, I won't talk to Taiwan again, then all of a sudden, within days, all of those trademarks and patents were approved.
Whoa. So you think there's a quid pro quo here?
It was absolutely a quid pro quo. It was pay for play. I mean, he basically, that right there, in that article, I remember sharing it in social media and saying, isn't this right here proof that he was going against the emoluments clause?
Right.
Because he is now going to get money because of his position as president. That's
incredible. And now his daughter's moving into the White House without pay and without oversight as a consequence of that. I'm not sure how this ties in, but his daughter's husband, is getting $400 million from a Chinese company for some property that some would argue is not worth that.
Right. If you tell me how to share it so that you can see it, when I get home, I will find that article and I will send it to you so that you can read it.
Go to ThomHartmann.com. We have a daily blog on the front page, and it just posted to the blog, and I'll get it.
Perfect, because it was mind numbing, like it was scary.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to reading it. Heather, thank you very much. Great talking with you. Thank you. John in Cayucos, California. Hey, John, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Two quick things. I think that the Democrats, we should block. We should become the party of obstruction while Trump is in office.
For the good of the nation.
For the good of the nation. For the good of the nation. But the real thing I wanted to say is, and let me know what you think about this, I believe the Republican Party, to quote partially from Oscar Wilde, they seem to have fallen into people who know the cost of everything and the value of nothing.
Oh, yeah. Bobby Kennedy used that phrase, too, when he was talking about GDP.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Where did that phrase originate from?
Oscar Wilde.
Oscar Wilde. Oh, amazing.
Yep. And, when you look at things like healthcare, why wouldn't a government want the citizens of their country to be healthy?
Particularly in an era when a terrorist could bring a virus or bacteria into this country and create a public health crisis, a panic. Particularly in an era where China right now is killing tens of thousands of chickens because the bird flu has been caught by humans who are dying at 40%. 40% of the people who get this are dying. They're trying to step on this epidemic or prevent it from turning into an epidemic in China right now. It makes no sense. I mean, you would think that if the United States was established to provide for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, what's closer to life than knowing that if you get sick, you can stay alive? What's closer to liberty than knowing that if you get sick, you're not going to end up in debtor's prison? What's closer to the pursuit of happiness?
Plus, a healthy citizenry is a prosperous citizenry.
And a productive citizenry. You're absolutely right. It's good for industry. I mean, this is why Toyota opened a factory in Canada rather than the United States, because there was $2,400 per car worth of health insurance costs in the one in the United States. And 20% of that was just skimming off the top and giving to the banksters who call themselves health insurance companies. You're absolutely right, John. It's a brilliant analysis. Thank you. Jeff in Grapeview, Washington. Hey, Jeff, what's on your mind?
Hi, Tom. Right off the bat, I just want to inject some gratitude for your response to the fellow that wanted us to have a liberal Frank Lutz. It's up to us. And, you're saying tag your it was one of the things that sort of nudged me into being an activist. So I just want to say thanks for that.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Thank you for that kind sentiment. And I really believe it. I believe that everything comes from the people, from the grassroots up, and that's us. And we've got to do the work. And I think one of the biggest problems that we have in Western civilization is this thing that was given to us with Christianity, which is salvationist thinking, the idea that somebody out there is going to save us. And, we've got to save ourselves. We've got to make this happen. Jeff, thank you so much for the call. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
More of your calls right after this. Stick around. And welcome back, Mercedes in Orlando, Florida. Hey, Mercedes, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. Are you hearing me okay?
Just fine.
Oh, great. I'm excited to be on with you. I mean, you're right. This has been a crazy, crazy state of affairs. But I was kind of thinking about this. Right now, FBI has announced yesterday during the hearing that they have been investigating the Trump candidacy and all their people as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me says that, right now the presidency's legitimacy is under a cloud. So wouldn't everything else that he is doing also be under a cloud? So Neil Gorsuch's nomination and the hearings and everything else, shouldn't that be placed on hold until we know exactly what's going on?
Well, if we had a Democratic Congress, that might be the case. But Republicans are going to keep on, they've got the steamroller going, and they are not going to slow it down.
Oh, it's unbelievable just to see this unfold. And it's not about being a Democratic or being Republican or independent. It's about being an American.
Yep.
I think that's what should come first.
I agree.
Thank you. I love listening to your show. I kind of sweat in the car just like waiting, for my next appointment. I need to always listen to you.
Thank you, Mercedes.
And thank you very much for hanging in there with us, and hopefully we can come out of this okay.
I think we will. I mean, America's been to hell and back more than once, but this is a challenge. It's a serious challenge. Thank you so much for the call, Mercedes, and for your kind words.
Sir.
Thank you. Jerry in Alwine, Iowa. Do I have that right, Jerry?
Yeah.
Watching Free Speech TV. Hey, what's on your mind today?
Is there a way we the people can get Trump removed from Twitter?
For that, I think you'd have to talk to the CEO of Twitter. It's a private company. It doesn't answer to us outside of the laws.
And, false accusations, bullying. I mean, isn't that quite a bit?
But here's the thing, Jerry. If the president is mentally ill, if the president is delusional,
I agree.
Don't you want to know about it?
I totally agree. But, I mean, can we get a petition going? People on Twitter doing the hashtag dump Trump from Twitter.
Yeah. I kind of like the fact that his full-blown psychosis, or some variation thereof, is on public display. He's putting out every day exactly what's going through his mind, and that's what's causing a lot of people to go, huh? You know, really? I mean, this is troublesome, shall we say, or psychotic, others would say. I mean, we had Justin Frank on this program a month or so ago. He wrote Bush on the Couch and Obama on the Couch. He's a psychiatrist, professor of psychiatry here in Washington, D.C. at George Washington. And he just laid out the psychopathologies associated with Donald Trump in I thought, chilling way. And then went on to say, on this program, you can find it on YouTube, you can watch the whole thing, and then went on to say, and I personally am afraid of Trump. You know, whereas he was not afraid of Obama and he wasn't afraid of Bush in terms of, you know, the followers or the president coming after him. Now he's concerned about Trump. That should tell you a lot. That should tell you an awful lot. Jerry, thanks for the call. You know, we'll see how it shakes out with Trump and Twitter. I get your concern. I really do. This guy is scrambling the free world. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And Ian in Oakley, California. Hey, Ian, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, how are you today?
Great. What's up?
The whole thing about Trump and the insanity, you know, it's kind of funny. I heard somebody say a couple days ago that he's kind of acting like a 5-year-old. And as a parent of a 5-year-old daughter, I can say that whole behavior, especially his uber paranoia regarding you know, supposedly Obama wiretapping him. My thing is, when my child acts that way, first thing I think, and I'm sure all parents do, is, what have you really done then? You're that paranoid and that concerned on, you know, someone wiretapping you, and your paranoia is going to the point to where you're literally like showing this to other people and displaying that their irrational behavior. It only leads rational people to start questioning, you know, then what are you concerned and what really happened that you're trying to hide? And that's what question keeps going through my mind now.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Ian. I think that's an excellent point. And what is it that Trump is afraid that we, the people, our government, learned if they did wiretap him?
That Obama really wiretapped him. What did he really find out that he may have really been doing? And is truly Trump showing in another, you know, in a passive aggressive way, or showing another way, his true, you know?
Well, I think it's more like kill the messenger. If he thinks that the FBI is going to come out and say, here's what we learned about Trump from the wiretap, he's trying to blunt that in advance. You know, it's like, you know, hey, I stole the cookies, but mom didn't see me, you know, or when she did, you know, or well, it's a lousy analogy, but you get the point. And I get your point, Ian. Thank you. That was a brilliant observation. Greg in Turners Fall, Massachusetts. Hey, Greg, what's on your mind?
Yeah, hi, Tom. Question about the Supreme Court deal here with Gorsuch. I agree with the woman that said that these hearings shouldn't be going on, and if the Democrats got up and walked out of these Senate hearings, what would that do to the whole thing?
Right. It would mean that Mitch McConnell, it would force Mitch McConnell's hand. He would either have to say, okay, we're not going to have a ninth member of the Supreme Court for the next 3.5 years, just like he had blocked Merrick Garland for a year. Or it means that he would move to change the Senate rules to do away with the filibuster on Supreme Court nominees. I'm guessing he would do the latter because Mitch McConnell doesn't care about consistency or honesty or precedent for that matter. He just cares about raw power, and that's what this is all about. But that would be the result of it, Greg. And frankly, I think it's what the Democrats should do. But I don't run the Democratic Party, as is fairly obvious. Greg, thanks a lot for the call. Kurt in Los Angeles. Hey, Kurt, what's up?
Hello, Tom. Thank you for all that you do, sir.
My pleasure.
Hey, well, earlier you played a clip of some politicians saying that they don't want to ask a mother of two to pay for other people's health care, and you said that what he really meant was that they don't want to ask the Koch brothers to pay for other people's health care. Is that correct?
Yeah, because it's wealthy people, very wealthy people who are paying capital gains taxes, and it was the capital gains tax that was jacked up. And plus, there was also the other thing that the rich people really object to is that if you worked for any company in the healthcare field, your company can only deduct $500,000 a year in salary for you from their taxes. So the $16, $18, $20, $30, $50 million a year salaries that so many of these so-called healthcare and health insurance CEOs are making are really hitting their companies with tax consequence. And again, that money was used to support Obamacare. Back to you, Kurt.
Yeah, well, here's how I feel about it, Tom. If the Koch brothers can pledge $889 million towards a political campaign, a number which has more symbolism that I'll talk to you about on another occasion if I can, but if they can do that and then spend that much money plus some more on all the grassroots fake organizations that they sponsor to help create the echo chamber that gets disseminated and then re-echoed through Fox News via propaganda, then you know what? If they can't afford to do that, then I can't afford to buy any more Brawny towels. I can't afford to buy any more Dixie cups or Angel Soft tissue or anything owned by the Koch brothers, such as Georgia Pacific Goods and Paper Products, because as far as I'm concerned, any money I give to them as profit, if it's not going to come back to me in the way of them paying their fair share of taxes, then I just can't support that company. And
yeah.
I recommend anyone else that, to do the same, do their research, and any company that involved with ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, do your homework and stop funding your own demise.
Yeah.
Stop doing business with people, with companies in politics if those organizations aren't going to participate in our economic system. And lastly, Tom, the American Legislative Exchange Council is behind a huge push towards a constitutional
convention. Yeah, conventionofstates.com is the website.
Right. The ALEC is behind it, and every company that's involved in ALEC is behind trying to either rewrite our Constitution or guess what, Tom? They can just go ahead and dissolve it.
Yeah, well, they can't dissolve it, but they can amend it to the point where you wouldn't recognize it, and that's what they're trying to do. I wrote a piece about this for Alternet last week. There's several good articles that have been written about it, but Convention of States is the website if you want to see what the right-wingers are up to. Spot on, Kurt. Very well said. Thank you. Holly in New York City. Hey, Holly, what's on your mind today?
Oh, hi, Tom. First of all, I'm for obstruction, and whenever I contact my Schumer and Gillibrand, I tell them I want them to fight like Republicans. And I wanted you to know, if you don't already, about a wonderful thing that has been created for people who can text and want to contact their representatives. It's called a resist bot, B-O-T. Mm-hmm. And all a person has to do is text 50409 and the word resist to that number. And you will get an answer. And the resist bot will introduce itself to you. You tell the resist bot your zip code.
Yeah, Holly, before you go any farther, let me just warn you. There are all kinds of scams involving.
This is not a scam. This
okay.
is a legit thing.
Who is behind it?
I don't know the man who invented it, but I got it from a legitimate place, and I've used it, and it's terrific.
Right.
What it does is it'll set you type resist, and it asks for your zip, and then it asks you can write your text, you write your letter in your text, and when you're done, you tell them, and they will fax it to your senators.
Right.
And they will also
right, but now they own your cell phone number. And they can sell that. Cell phone numbers sell for big bucks, particularly cell phone numbers where you know that this person is an activist, you know that this person is passionate about something. I'm very suspicious, Holly. I've seen so many of these scams come and go, but it may well be solid. But I would want to know who's behind it, and I would, caution anybody about doing what you recommended until we've checked it out. I can't endorse it, but I hope it is exactly what you say. I really hope you're totally right, and I'm going to do my best to find out. Holly, thank you for the call, and keep up the great work. Keep caring. It's so good that you do. It is just absolutely wonderful. Thank you for being with us today. It's been a pretty remarkable day, and no doubt more to come. But democracy is not going to survive without all of us. That includes you. Get out there, get active, tag, you're it.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by the Aiden Forecast, an investment newsletter with weekly updates of leading market indicators and a monthly deep dive into what the details of the economy and the markets mean for investors and retirees. On the web at aidenmarkets.com.
Wines have some of the highest pesticide levels in our food chain. This hour brought to you by ecowine.com. Pesticide-free wines, organic wines, imported from France by the Organic Wine Company, ecowine.com.
The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Super Beets. Super Beets are sourced from non-GMO beets, and they're packed with dietary nitrates, helping to produce nitric oxide for more energy, stamina, and support for healthy blood pressure levels naturally. For more information, call 800-223-8242 or visit freespeechbeets.com.